You're listening to the No Gimmicks Needed Rewind. Right here on the No Gimmicks Needed Rewind, we going back in the day of the Nerd Coalition's wrestling podcast and getting all the segments that you guys missed that did not carry over to Nerd Coalition Studios. So if you guys like things from the original podcast, make sure you stay tuned right here every single week on YouTube and listen to the Rewind. Now let's see what we have for you in store today. This past week's season finale of Dark Side of the Ring.
Alright. Do we have to put a disclaimer or something?
I wouldn't know what the disclaimer should be, but this is talking about the tragic last days of Owen Hart. Look, I mean, we're going to give our opinions, and once again, these are the opinions of Nerd Coalition, not anybody else's. Okay, so I'm saying, and you know, I'm not going. We're not going to try to do anything to stir up the pot or piss people off or anything like that. But we're going to give our straight opinions on what we think, you know, this thing is. And automatically off the back, prime time, your thoughts on the episode. Just real quick before we dig into it.
It was a very good episode. I think they could have did like a part 2. They even uploaded like deleted scenes from this that didn't make it. I thought that could have been added in there as well. Yeah,
because you know, see like they do at Dark Side After Dark the next week now for some reason.
Because they got like a little news show or whatever.
Exactly, man. All you talk about is you know the virus. Ladies, sketch your opinions of the episode, just the overall episode.
I also thought it could have been a 2-parter. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I learned some stuff I didn't know. That I don't want to get too deep. So
okay, I agree with both of y'all. I thought it was a really well done episode, and I thought that it needed a second part because I only think, in my personal opinion, y'all can tell me if I was wrong, I think only half the story was told.
Yeah.
Maybe because like we was on that first commercial break, we was already on the Blue Blazer. Our first commercial break.
Yeah, and I really think half the story was told, and what I mean by half the story, like, you obviously can't get any of the Harts because they're all dead, except for Brett. Brett's still under a WWE contract. He can't, you know, talk on Vice and stuff like that. Neither. Huh?
Why can't he? I could swear he did. He did the Montreal screw job. Did they something change? Actually, I don't think he likes those guys anymore.
What, the Dark Side of the Ring guy?
Yeah, they said after their episode, he didn't like that they had I think Scott Hall in the episode. I think, you know, Brett's petty too. So.
Yeah, yeah. Brett's petty and takes it very seriously. So, I really think as though that half the story was told, and I don't think that, you know, there was no peers of Owen Hart to talk about anything, and I felt as though that was
except Godfather.
Except Godfather, D'Lo Brown was in there. Obviously, you know, there was no Mick Foley, there was no Mark Henry, there was no Bret Hart,
and they had Mick Foley in the last one. So
yeah, in the UWF one, there was no Jeff Jarrett, there was no.
Jeff Jarrett's on the contract, so I understand that.
I mean, exactly. I understand.
I think at this point, just keep people under contract so they can just be like, all right, so this is what you can't do.
Yeah, they definitely keep it well wriggled for that Benoit stuff, whatever he know.
Yeah. So, obviously, the show starts off. We get a brief run of Owen being the youngest of the Hart family. For those who don't know, the Harts in wrestling is like.
I feel like it was too brief, though.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was one side, but we better get into all them gritty details. For people that don't know, it's the Harts to wrestling is what the Jacksons are to music. Okay, they are the famous family. There's plenty of families in music, but there's one famous family in music, and that's the Jacksons. And that's how it is with wrestling. There's plenty of famous families in wrestling, but the famous family is the Harts. And they
one that everybody wrestles, basically.
Exactly, just like the Jack. Everybody sings, or it should be, but they do. But Owen was being the youngest of them all.
He's Janet.
Yes, he's the Janet Jackson of the family. He was the youngest of them all. He was the baby. And
just real quick, are you guys familiar with any of the other Harts?
Yeah, so I am familiar. You know, there's Bruce Hart, there's Keith Hart, there's Bret Hart. Then of course you got the extended family of Jim Neidhart, Davey Boy, and you know, and there's just stuff like that. It's like, God, was it 10, 13 kids?
Pillman too, right? Or am I just tripping?
You said
or was
who?
he just in the group?
Who?
Pillman.
Pillman was in the group, but Pillman had no relation to the Hart family, though.
Why am I thinking he was married to Nate Al?
You know what? We probably should look it up.
Just Google it.
Because you know what? Cause I was like, then you can't put Brian Pillman in there because you know what? Because all the daughters married wrestlers, and then I'm just like, so maybe Brian Pillman's, his wife. Let's see.
He was trained by Stu Hart.
Okay, so he's a dungeon survivor.
Yes.
And so if you're a dungeon survivor, then yeah, because people like that, Jericho, Benoit, Malenko, Mark Henry, all those are dungeon survivors. So Tyson Kidd,
the last member.
Yeah, the last member of the dungeon. So
he got hooked up. That poor man got hooked up with Natty somehow. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think they've been together since they was like 15.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. Like you need a brother for there, but anyway.
Stop.
I need to hear about that. So, like I said, they give a brief run about his run in Stampede Wrestling that Stu Hart owned,
Stampede.
And how athletic he was, and then how he did the Blue Blazer gimmick, then how he came into the WWE. Bret put him over at WrestleMania 10. And then he started getting accomplishments like, King of the Ring. And then all of a sudden, bam, we're in 1999. That's how fast his wrestling part was. His wrestling part in that documentary, they gave about 13 minutes.
I don't even think they gave it that.
And for everything, I mean, if I'm counting the commercial, for everything that Owen Hart has done in the wrestling business, I really felt as though that was unfair, and I felt as though like it wasn't like this man was no scrub. Like he had no highlights or no accomplishments. This man was the king of the ring. This man was a tag team champion. This man was his famous angle. See the things that I want to know now. Obviously, we got to get to the death of Owen Hart, but this is why I needed 2 parts.
But you wanted to see Owen 316 said I just broke your neck.
Yeah, because see, they didn't get into that stuff because all they mentioned was it's the Attitude Era, and
they didn't get into him kicking his brother's leg from his leg.
Exactly, they were saying it's the Attitude Era. Owen did not go with the Attitude Era. He didn't want to have an affair, on-screen affair with Deborah McMichaels, or that he didn't want like he was cheating on his wife. So they didn't have a place for him in the Attitude Era at all. And then all of a sudden the Blue Blazer come back. And I'm like, the Blue Blazer ain't come back till late 98. Because I'm like, in the Attitude Era, you had the Hart Foundation. They got rid of Bret. And then they had the whole Stone Cold I broke your neck, Owen 316. They had him join the Nation.
That was such a weird thing. I'm sorry.
Exactly. I'm like, so it was trying. It was trying to remember he had his feud with Ken Shamrock in the Lions Den. I'm like, there were so many things that they tried to do with Owen Hart that just didn't, kind of work. And then
they had a match at the thing too, the Hart thing too, the dungeon.
Exactly. And then on top of that, it didn't talk about, basically, Stu Hart or any of the Hart family period at all. So she says that, okay, they didn't have a place for him in the Attitude Era. So basically, he was kind of fed up and he was done with wrestling. This is what his family's making it seem of how they were presenting the story. So then we get to...
he probably was just like, hey, I want to be my family, man.
Yeah, I get that. So I'm saying, so then we get to Over the Edge of May 23rd, 1999. Prime, you wasn't watching wrestling. Now, according to what you told me, you wasn't watching wrestling at this time, right?
Nope.
Okay. I remember because I ordered my first wrestling pay-per-view, WrestleMania 15, which was 2 months ago. So then me and my sister watched all the highlights lead up to Over the Edge. we was like, okay, Triple H smashed The Rock in the casket. I want to see The Rock versus Triple H. Ministry Undertaker versus Stone Cold. I want to see that match. I want to see the return of Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown go against X-Pac and Kane. Over the Edge had those matches to the point where we begged my mom to get over the edge. She got it. She was working late that night. So we watched Over the Edge. You know, obviously we get the tag team match out the way, which didn't end like I wanted to end. But and then we was watching the matchup. And then with all that being said, we get a long title card of Godfather versus the Blue Blazer. Now, once again, I wasn't familiar with, Stampede Wrestling. And then on top of that, the whole gimmicks they used, it was like, I was like, that's kind of Owen Hart, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is he doing this whole thing? But the title card stayed on there for a long time. And I was just like, and then they played kind of like, his interview from earlier in the night. And I'm like, let's just get on with it's Blue Blazer versus Godfather. Does not need to be this much build up for Blue Blazer versus the Godfather. That's how I felt. And then they come back, and the same footage that they show in the documentary is what I saw with Jim Ross here talking about, there's things that's real in life, and then Owen Hart has had an accident. And I'm like, what's going on? And then King comes back to the table. I remember him saying, it don't look good. And me being 11, it's not processing. It really is not processing what's going on. So now I like how they told the story in Dark Side of the Ring, where they got the original referee back, and he said he was just cleaning up the side of the ring, and then he just felt this brush, and he just felt the ropes just like leave his hand, and then he said he thought he heard something. People have confirmed in the crowd that Owen was screaming for him to look.
How can you confirm this?
I'm not saying I'm only going by the reports I hear. That's what I'm saying. I don't know who's telling the truth or who's not telling the truth. To be honest with you, I don't know. But it's just like,
that's the only part I was kind of skeptical about.
I mean, but it's like this. Could you put it past Owen Hart to say, "Look out"? To the, because look, if you're falling down from that high and you see the ref is right there, you're like, okay, do I take him with me?
I mean, how can you see anything falling from that high that fast?
You falling. What he's supposed to be like Geronimo? Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
just saying, like, he probably was like passed out on the way. Who knows?
No,
he didn't fall from that high.
You're not falling from that high. Okay. If you're believe it or not, this is kind of weird, but I did a study on falling. But I'm saying, if you're falling from a height of 70 feet, you're not falling from, no matter how heavy you are, you're not falling at a fast enough rate for a heart attack or a pass out to happen. You're not. You're only doing that if you're falling from heights of double-digit feet. If you're falling from like 1,600 feet, 1,400 feet, that's right there is when the air and all the pockets of the blood clots start, and that heart attack comes, and you pass out. That's like a skydiver jumping with no parachute. They just go up there to die. It's like, even, I don't want to even bring this up, but even those people at 9/11 who jumped from the buildings, they didn't pass out. They was alive until they hit the ground.
Okay.
Because I'm saying that, because even now, the height they were at, they're at a height of about 1,200 feet. You know what I'm saying? Or even 1,000 feet. So still, the human body is still alive. So he only falling from 70 feet.
Yeah.
So he's falling. He's going to get injured. But when he hit that turnbuckle is what really kind of killed him. And it's just like, if you're falling, you see what's, because look, they showed the police photos. You can see, you look down, it's like it's a long way down, but I can clearly see the ring.
Yeah, it's not like it's fuzzy or...
It's not fuzzy. I can clearly see the ring. I can clearly see the guy there. So if he's falling, a guy like Owen Hart. Now, if you sit there and told me that you know, I don't know, you know, God forbid, like, you know,
Hulk Hogan.
Hulk. Shit. If you're telling me a guy like Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan, like, no, you coming with me. So, okay, you're coming with me, brother.
Break my fall, brother. Like,
Hulksters in heaven.
This is not funny.
Make sure I let no Booker T.
We're not joking about this. It's not a funny situation.
It's not a funny situation at all. I'm sorry.
But I don't think it's so far-fetched that he could have said, look out.
And, because say, if he was telling, I forgot the referee's name.
Jimmy Corderas.
Yeah, Jimmy Corderas. If he was telling him, look out, get out the way, it's not so far-fetched that people heard him say that. And then, once again, you got all them execs and all those WWE personnel who were in that crowd at that time also, who are, people are asking him a question, they probably say, I heard him say this, I heard him say this. So that's how that word got around. So it's not that far-fetched.
Ouch.
Okay.
That's me.
So, he falls, he hits it, and then they take him to the back, and then
just real quick, do you know, like, I used to deep dive on the web a lot of times, like, you know, a lot of videos people used to they used to like try to figure out, like, put like a 100 video, and they'll put like, say they put like him going up that one time he did as the Blue Blazer where he was in the harness, and then like they'll do like the New Jack video where he threw him off the scaffold.
Exactly,
Oh,
I've seen. I've seen those videos.
Yeah,
I've seen those videos. They're very tasteless.
What's wrong with people?
Well, people tasteless people. So yeah, but I've seen the exact videos Prime is talking about.
That don't make no sense.
So they wheel him to the back, and then Godfather is looking at, you know, he said he was like, he just looked blue, and then D'Lo was like, that's not a sight that I want to see again. And then he was dead before he left the ring.
Yeah.
You know, so. And they just didn't want to crack that news just yet. You know, because they're still live on pay-per-view and everything like that. And then they, Kevin Dunn tells JR, Owen died, and we are alive in 10, 9. And like, how does it, how do you process that as a human? Because it's not just a expendable wrestler. This is a friend of mine, a co-worker of mine.
Yeah.
And then
anybody, that's weird to be like, hey, so somebody just died. You got 10 seconds. Like,
exactly.
That was kind of a lack of communication, I felt like.
It was. And on top of that, we didn't find out about Owen Hart dying until the Billy Gunn versus Road Dogg match.
So they really had them. They knew he was dead. Sent them out there to wrestle in that.
So, yeah, because it still had Owen's blood on the ring and the dent in the wood. Of where it fell. So people, when you get to that part, you like, this is where Owen hit. That's just my brain's fucked thinking about that. Because the next match was that Nicole Bass, Val Venus, Deborah, Jeff Jarrett match, and I remember Jeff Jarrett cut that emotional promo that they had the match, and everybody was like, "We praying for you."
And they were tag partners too.
Yeah. Exactly. So we praying for you, Owen, and things like that. But and then when J.R. King came back, and then they announced and Owen Hart has died. I just couldn't. I really at that point could not believe it. At that point, I couldn't believe it. I think my sister was in shock, and I cried a little bit, and I was just like, Owen Hart just died. And at that, when I was like, and I watched it. I almost felt guilty. Obviously, I didn't watch the thing happen, but I was watching Over the Edge, and that was the last pay-per-view I think I ordered that year. Until like SummerSlam. And then honestly, I'm trying to. Did I order SummerSlam? I don't know.
SummerSlam like 2 months later.
Yeah, it's not like that year until summer.
May, June, July, August. It's about a good 3 months. So, but and then I remember my mom was working late, so after the pay-per-view went on, because first of all, I was surprised. I was like, so the show's still going on. Yeah. And did they
even tell the people in the crowd though?
With Owen Hart died?
No, I don't think the people in the crowd knew. Just on
because it's like you don't hear the commentary, so you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Exactly. So I don't think the people in the crowd.
I'm pretty sure the people in the crowd probably knew though.
In 2020, everybody would have knew.
Everybody would know. Yeah.
But I'm just saying because
they probably would have and on videos.
But back then, everybody probably left talking about some. Oh man, well, I hope Owen Hart's all right. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But the people at home were the ones that got the news, and then of course we got the news. So, but by the time everybody got home, everybody knew because it was all over the news.
Yeah.
And this is like the first wrestling big thing that happened that was literally all over the news, everywhere. My dad was like, "Did you hear about the wrestler that fell yesterday?" I was just like, "Yeah, it was Owen Hart." And then my mom even came home and was just like, "Who fell?" Like it was everywhere, and you know it was very sad. They said Brett and Martha went in there and first of all, she got the phone call from Vince, and Vince was just like, "I need to speak to Martha." Now, for those who heard Owen Hart stories, see, this is what I mean by it would have benefited from a longer part. But I'm gonna ask you, ladies, cause do you know that Owen was a prankster?
I've heard it from like his peers and other things where they talk about him. Yeah. But not from that show. But
I'm just saying,
he is a notorious prankster.
Notorious. I mean, on live TV prankster. Okay, that's what he is.
Did you hear the D'Lo Brown story?
Which one?
The one he talking about Owen pranking him in the ring.
No. Which one was that one?
Oh, I gotta tell this real quick. He was saying he was in the ring for some reason. He was nervous against Owen.
Yeah.
So Owen, he told they locked up. He told Owen that I'm stiff. I'm kind of nervous. Owen put him in a snap mirror, headlock. Put him in the headlock. Told him look at his shoe, and his shoe was untied. He was like, "Well, I thought I tied my shoe." He got him up, snap mirror, headlock again. He said, "Look at your other shoe. This other shoe was untied." He said, "Oh, that's kind of weird." Snap mirror, lock him up again. He said, "Now look at the ref shoe. The ref shoe was untied." So then he said, "All right, I feel kind of loose now, so we can actually wrestle." Well, I don't know how he did it. Well, I guess it was a good story for D'Lo telling it.
Oh no, because Owen would have times when he would call and act like other people because he would do impressions and would act like somebody else. Uh-huh. And I remember what was that Razor Ramon story he told him to do because he was like he was at the hotel room and he was calling like it was visiting. He needed this meat and he kept making Razor come down the steps all hours of the night.
I heard stories like that. I also heard him like calling people at 3 a.m. talking about they didn't pay their hotel bill. And Now they gonna call the police if you don't come down to the lobby at 3 a.m. in the morning. So they coming down mad at the clerk and he don't have no idea what they're talking about.
He would straight fuck with people like that on a very high level. And then so when she called and said that it was Vince McMahon, she thought it was Owen playing a prank. And then she said,
just one question: does she not watch the product?
Apparently not.
While her husband is on?
No.
Even the kids, I would assume the kids would want to watch.
No, from all accounts, it sounds like she shielded them from wrestling because she thought the Attitude Era was too much for children. And she wasn't a fan of wrestling in the first place. Which is why, one of the reasons why my personal belief, I think that's one of the reasons why the Harts didn't like her.
Yeah, man, how you not like wrestling? You literally married in a family full of 12 wrestlers plus extra.
Yeah. So he said no. You need to get down here. Owens had an accident. He said, "What kind of accident?" And then he said, "You need to get down here." So Vince wasn't giving her no details. Vince knew. So
he could have just told her.
Then she got another. How did she find out? She had another.
She said the doctor called her.
The doctor called her. The doctor called her and told her that she said he was beating around the bush. And she said, "Can we just get to the end?" And he said, "Your husband has died. He's died from the fall." So she got very hysterical. And then her son was over at a neighbor's house. She said, "Your mom was crying."
No, he said he was in the basement.
He said, "I didn't even know nothing about it. I was playing with a train."
He was playing with a train, and then he came up, and then he was just like, "Man, so your mom cried, and I had to get him and his sister up there and let him know that their dad died." And then they all cried again, got hysterical, and he said that night they all slept in the bed together. And then he said, "I was trying to hear my mom, sniffling and everything like that, but she said I don't think none of us got."
Well, them two. The baby didn't know.
Yeah, the baby didn't know. But they didn't get no sleep. So then we go into the whole case thing, like, so they go into the funeral. Brett is there to, to go view the body, and she said, Owen's hair looked the same, which made her, calm her down a little bit, because she like collapsed once they opened the door, and Brett was right there with her, and then they showed the funeral of how many people came, and it was so many people came, and they had to broadcast on the outside. Mm-hmm. So many people came.
And they use audio from the actual funeral sound, like
exactly. Yeah. And she already said, I have no bitterness, but there will be a day of reckoning. That right there, hell hath no fury. She has made it her mission, and I'm talking about to this day. She has made it her mission to take down Vince McMahon. That is her life's goal. That's her life's work. She will not be complete. Martha Hart will not leave this earth until WWE is destroyed.
Put that on the list next to Jim Cornette pissing on
Vince Russo's grave.
It's a real thing.
And I'm like, okay, so she took them up. She said she just had to know. Took the kids up to the catwalk. I don't know if I took the kids up there.
I don't know if I would take my kids up there. But, dude, I mean, I can't tell nobody how to grieve, so.
Yeah, and then Oates was like, I can't believe how high it was. I was just like, my God. They showed the police photos of it. And I was like, okay, I see the police photos. She showed the harness. And the harness was bullshit. Mm-hmm. That quick release harness. And the whole thing, I said, was...
This whole thing, I got so nervous when she said, the first time I seen the clip, I said, clip? What clip she talking about? I thought she was talking about the actual clip for it. She was talking about the harness clip.
Yeah, that was what I said. And then... because they, Owen was on his way back, and then a representative of WWE called, said, we need Owen to come back because we need to get his measurements for this harness. And she said, he was just there, but then they got new people. This was not the people that had worked on before.
I think they probably asked him to do it first, and he was like, nah, I'll do it later. That's probably what it was.
They said that they asked him to do it, and he was kind of hesitant about doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So he kept trying to put it off because apparently in the police report, he was supposed to have I don't remember the name, but the mini Blue Blazer. Was supposed to be strapped to him.
Oh wow.
So, and that was in the actual police report that he was supposed to have another person, and he said, no, I don't want to do I don't want to do that. I don't want us to do that. So they scrapped that idea, and he apparently went through the rehearsal and the fitting and stuff, and then it sounds like they cheaped out on having a professional, someone who really does this for a living, there to fit him and do actual run-throughs.
I just have a quick question. Mm-hmm. Even though they probably are $1 million company, do you think that they could have just asked these people if they know how to do it, and the people could have just lied to them? If there was no really way how to prove it back then in '99, or
it's a possibility. It's a strong possibility because, like I said, things have changed. It's gonna sound weird, but things have changed since post 9/11. Mm-hmm. Security and things and some of that has really changed, and then now we're about to live in an era where things are going to change post Corona. Uh-huh. That's how it's going to be. So there's always these different post things that happen after a world changing event, and it could have been a possibility. You see how obviously the mass transit incident happened in ECW. It shouldn't have happened, but it got passed, and this was probably a way for Vince to be because he said they wanted the quick release so they could do a comedy like him fall in the ring when he was about 10, 15 feet above the ring and just drop down, saying like a comedy type thing, because they were spoofing Sting from WCW, and Sting had that whole thing where he came down and kind of
Sting's one was too quick. I felt like he didn't even get a chance to land first.
Yeah, Sting's was quick, but then Sting also unbuckled from the front. Mm-hmm. Blue Blazer.
Sting just click click and he gone.
Yeah, Blue Blazer is coming out like a superhero, and then they said they didn't want to use the old one because it looked too bulky, so
clumsy and clunky and whatever. But
yeah,
but then y'all want him to look clumsy and clunky as a character.
That's the thing I would say. I was like, the character is clumsily and clunky in the first place. So what's the difference? So at the beginning, she said that Bret was there for her and help her make it through, the death of Owen, because Bret was going to do some things to that. That's a little bro, close with. So
I don't know if y'all seen that promo he cut on WCW when it first happened, but
yeah, I did. Because that's the match he had with Voldemort, right?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see the match. I just seen the promo.
Okay, yeah. So now here is the other stuff that I read up on. This is what Martha Hart said, that the reason why her and Bret Hart's relationship deteriorated. So Bret Hart was all for her suing WWE. Bret don't give a shit, okay?
Especially at that time, before, pre Hall of Fame and coming back.
Exactly. Bret don't. What? Take Vince down, okay? Because we only 2 years after the screw job. So, but what Bret wanted his royalties. He wanted his video rights. Because Bret wanted all his video rights, because he didn't want what the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior was. You remember that DVD. So he wanted all his rights in the settlement also. Martha said no. So
I mean, again, sir, this is not the time.
I mean,
time or place for that, sir.
Bret Hart is petty. He don't care where he can do it at, he'll do it.
And I agree. I was just like, I felt as though that was not the time or place to probably to do that.
That's tacky, Bret. Tacky.
So she said that was the one fractions, but then it was in 2006, Bret got his video rights back, and they made that proper Bret Hart documentary that was actually pretty good. Was it Hitman? I forgot what it was called. But I have it on DVD. It's probably on W Network. And then he got all his video rights, and then he put him in the Hall of Fame. Martha felt that was a slap in the face, because he went back to that company that killed his brother. He went back to that devil who killed his brother. And she said, I created the Owen Hart Foundation because, because WWE will never be able to profit off my husband's name after they killed him. That's her motive.
Can I ask a question, though?
Sure.
Just public knowledge. Before this documentary, did any of y'all know what the Owen Hart Foundation was?
I knew what the Owen Hart Foundation was, but I didn't know what it did.
Yeah.
I
knew
what its purpose was.
I knew it existed, but I didn't know what the true thing it did.
I know they don't want WWE to profit from it. Do you just think is there some chance they could just be like, Martha, Owen Hart, y'all can have all the money from this. Y'all can have all the publishing for y'all company or whatever. Just let us honor him. Like, is that a possibility?
No. I think she's gotten to her children so that even when she dies, he's never going in this Hall of Fame. It sounds like hate wrestling.
It's the thing, because you can tell by the way the kids talk, right? And then her son's about to become a lawyer, and Osh was just like, yeah, he was a wrestler, but he was my dad. When he was home, he was my dad. He was the guy who was about to come home. He was just doing this to save money so we can have a better life. And then when his youngest daughter talks, who doesn't have that many memories left of him, she automatically blames wrestling. Wrestling is associated with my dad's death. That's how she looks at it. Yeah. And what's sad is that these kids are deprived of the rich history that the Harts put into professional wrestling.
But how do you introduce that? Because in Martha's place, imagine put yourself in Martha's place. You have to some degree romanticize his family that has made your life hell since your husband died. Who wants nothing to do with you and your children. How do you?
But who said they didn't want to do with her or her differently? But what about the children? Because Bret was just like, I can't talk to my niece and nephew.
Now, but see, that's Bret though. The only person that, like she said herself, that they had some kind of relationship and it deteriorated because he went back to WWE. I get that. But everything else, like how she said in the show, allegedly, because I can't, we can't confirm this. Allegedly, some other Hart family members stole legal documents from her, and gave them to WWE so that they would be privy to everything that was happening in her case. Allegedly, that person was Natalia's mom.
No, I was gonna say it was Bruce Hart.
And people were taking guesses, but allegedly, because apparently there's also a story in Brets' book about something along those lines, and I think he alludes to the fact that it's her mom too. Because she was trying to secure a place in the company for Jim. That doesn't sound like a person or a family that is like, yeah, here, we want to welcome you with open arms because we lost Owen, we know you lost Owen. That just don't sound, because after the documentary came out, people were all in the comments like, y'all know the Harts be doing some shady shit. Like, one of them tried to book David Benoit, even though he hadn't been trained. And I think Bret stopped him. No, Chris Jericho was like, he doesn't have any training. He's not. No, why would you try and book him? And you know he doesn't have any training. And they was just like, it's just people have.
I think the artists do anything for wrestling. I feel like.
But I say
wrestling is their life, so
people have some real unsavory opinions about the Hart family. So let's just go with the hypothesis that they are not that great to her. Mm-hmm. How do you move past your husband's death, and then once you get past that, the company that was responsible for his well-being did not take care of him, let him die. Then you got to get past that and get to the family who's actively working against you when you're trying to get some kind of justice for your husband, who is also their family member. That, to me, I
resent your tone.
That shit is not even right. I hate you.
And that was the funniest line, I felt like.
That whole thing, I was like, bruh.
I resent your sarcasm, though. I resent your tone.
That
was the first message I sent.
That clap right there. The clip right there. I was like, this is why everybody hates Vince McMahon.
I didn't go watch that full interview. That full thing.
Like, sir, what do you resent my tone? I resent the fact that you let one of your wrestlers fall 70 feet to the ring and continue the show.
I agree. Now, looking back at it as an adult, they should stop that show.
Especially after Martha's explanation.
Yeah, I really.
Why didn't the cops stop the show?
Because it does make sense. When you're grown, she's like, a murder happened here. This is a crime scene now.
It is.
Yeah.
And you muddying up everything because you got all these other people coming in and out the ring wrestling. One, you endangering them because they wrestling and the ring is broke. Like, I understand why she, like, seeing even if it is one side of the story, just from the actual facts that we know from the case that happened, from him countersuing her, from everything that happened after the fact and what she went through with the family and with him and the company, I can see why she would never want him to go into their Hall of Fame.
You know what? You're right. But you know what? I also want to say this, though. Because, see, people say Hall of Fame, right? Mm-hmm. It's not just Hall of Fame. And I want to get it from both sides because I do understand from listening to this documentary where Martin's coming from. But, I don't think it's right to just dismiss his wrestling because even though Owen didn't have that same passion for wrestling like Bret had, don't mean he didn't love what he did.
Like it at all.
Or he
didn't come from that legacy.
Exactly, like I was saying, because he was good at what he was good at what he did, and like I said, it's probably a thing like Bret Hart is pissed off that he got screwed over because Bret is let's do it like this. Bret is Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Mike said in the documentary, I take everything personally.
Mm-hmm.
Bret Hart.
That's definitely Bret Hart.
Bret Hart takes everything personally. And he is he takes himself too damn seriously. He does. I love Bret Hart. Bret Hart is an excellent wrestler. He's an excellent character. Bret Hart is the Michael Jackson of the Hart family. But he takes himself way too seriously.
Because he's the Michael Jackson of the Hart family.
Exactly. And he looks at wrestling from a different perspective. Now, if you got Owen Hart who says is your Scottie Pippen, yeah, I like basketball. I love playing basketball. I love playing it with you and everything like that. But I'm not invested in this game. It's like this. My back hurt. I'm leaving the game. Fact. Jordan, I got food poisoning. I'm going to play this game. It's a different passion for the sport. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it was. But it don't mean that Owen didn't. Even when he was like, I want to save up money and go live family, live out. I don't want to do this forever. In other words, it ain't like,
he don't want to end up like Mick. Undertaker,
Mick, and who can't walk,
and Kurt Angle,
and Ric Flair, and Ric Flair who likes the Crypt Keeper, and Hulk Hogan who got the nasty looking back. He don't want to end up like that, and I get that. He knows he wants to I want to walk away. He's 34 years old. If Owen had stayed, I can see Owen be like, look, hey, I want to walk away close to 40, maybe 38 years old. I'm out of here.
Especially when that clip they said the next year all them new people came in too.
Exactly. I'm just like, yeah. See, because then. It would have been easier to fit Owen Hart into the mix with all them kind of guys.
Yeah, all those guys would have been. He would have found a better fit.
Exactly. So I'm just like, so.
Imagine Owen Hart and Kurt Angle match.
Sheesh, bro, don't make me dream. Him, Taz, all the stuff that came out in the 2000s. There's a certain things, and then I think Owen Hart probably would have been done in 2002. That would have been his after all that stuff is done. I'll probably have Brock Lesnar write me off, and then seriously, if I had Brock Lesnar write me off, and I go home with my family and call it a day. But as them kids got older, if they had shown an interest in wanting to wrestle, he ain't gonna turn them away.
I mean,
I don't think so.
He probably would have been like, no thanks.
Exactly. Or if he,
you gotta go to the dungeon.
She definitely would have been like, no thanks.
Or if it's a thing where it's just like, hey, this is my action figure. Like your dad's a toy.
Yeah.
Or I'm in a video game. Or I'm in a whole movie. All that is deprived of fans.
Yeah, I did like that one. The one where he was talking about just like Uncle Brett and he was playing with him and his dad and Uncle Brett's action figures. I like that part too.
Exactly. I'm just saying, but see, there's a whole generation now. It's just that it ain't, there's no Hall of Fame, but there's no video games. There's no T-shirts. There's no books. There's no Blu-rays. There's no he's only being played on the network. Because you can't rewrite history because he ain't do nothing. He didn't do anything. He just, he died of an accident. It ain't like he, Crispin Wilde. It ain't like he.
Well, see, but she tried to paint it like they did it on purpose, and I think that's where part of the contention comes in.
Yeah.
But also,
I don't think as much of an asshole Mr. Man is. I don't think Vince wanted to purposely try to kill Owen Hart.
But I do think it's possible he cut corners.
He did cut corners.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, want to be cheaper.
But that's what I'm saying. It's possible. The blood is on your hands. Whether you did it on purpose or not, the blood is on your hands because you cut the corners that caused this tragic accident. Now, I hear what you're saying. But if you think about it, there's a generation of wrestlers that every era, the generation, they don't know them. They in the Hall of Fame. They couldn't even be in the game. They still don't know or care about who they are. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't know or care about who Owen Hart is. But all of those things make tons of money. Yeah. And honestly, if he hadn't been such a dick and dragged out the legal process, it could have probably been resolved, and then they could have amicably agreed to release a DVD, a special edition action figure, something that had his likeness on it, and it wouldn't have built up so much anticipation to the point where if they do release something, it's going to be a smash. It's going to sell out. It's going to be sold out. It's going to cost a bunch of money. And now they stand to make even more money because people have been clamoring for it for 20 years than they would have back then. But you wanted to drag out this legal action and then sue the widow of the person who you are ultimately responsible for their death. Sir, like, I understand. I understand why his peers and his lone brother will want him in the Hall of Fame and want him to be celebrated. But after the nonsense that, if I was the widow, after the nonsense I was put through with this company, I wouldn't want shit to do with them. Ever.
You're right. And I can't get mad at her for feeling that way.
And when I first saw it, I was like, I feel like she wants to completely erase wrestling from his legacy, period. But then I saw a post where somebody was like, I saw a lot of people saying that Martha never wants to acknowledge that he even wrestled, but that's not true because he was inducted into a different Hall of Fame, like a different organization's Hall of Fame, and she took a picture, smiling and posing with the plaque and everything. So I was like, maybe it's really not that she wants to completely erase wrestling. It's just a large part of his career was spent in this place that is responsible for him dying. And it's kind of hard to work around that. And it's kind of in the other portion of his career, it was spent with his family, who was kind of just like, fuck y'all. So what do you do in that situation?
It's hard. It's tragic. I just know that I speak from, like I said, I see both sides, and I can't help that sometimes I get carried away by speaking from a form of biasness, because I loved Owen Hart. Yeah. And when I say loved Owen Hart, I loved him as a fan. See, I was a fan of Slammy Award winner, King of the Ring, two-time Slammy Award winner, Owen Hart. That's my Owen Hart. King of the Ring. That 94, 96 Owen Hart is cool. Then when he became a heel and he did that whole Owen 316 thing, I liked that Owen Hart. I wasn't a fan of late 90s Owen Hart. You know what I'm saying? But
you weren't a fan of the Nation Owen?
Well, the Nation Owen Hart didn't make sense, but I was like...
Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
I know.
That's when you should have said, I was injured too.
Yes. But, in the Blue Blazer stuff and the him team with Jeff Jarrett, which I didn't like that team neither. It was just like,
I thought that was solid.
Huh?
I thought that was solid.
I mean, it was solid as wrestlers, but it just didn't go together for me. It was like, hey, it just worked out. Like, I was enjoying him versus Triple H or him versus X-Pac European Championship matches. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very unfortunate situation. It shouldn't have happened. It really shouldn't have happened. And
so is there like a law that they couldn't have like protested?
What you mean?
Could the wrestler just say, I don't want to wrestle after that? Could they not all get together and say, I don't want to do this?
I don't think... JR said in one of them Dark Side of the Rings, you can't get two wrestlers to agree on what to have for lunch.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have, especially in that haste, all been like, we just not going out there to wrestle. Because at that time, were they still in the era or... in the working conditions where you didn't get paid if you didn't work.
Yeah.
So they not gonna not work.
And first of all, but it's
honestly,
the thing though, would Owen want them to do that? Like, I'm talking about the ones. See, it's easy for us to say this is what I would do because I feel this way right now. But in reality, I'm not a wrestler. I don't get paid for this. I'm not in the business. I didn't know Owen Hart personally, so you can say I don't see why, if everybody loved Owen Hart, why not say why Vince, I don't want to wrestle no more. It ain't that easy. We make it seem like it's easy because we think it's easy for us to make that decision because we're not in those shoes.
I'm just saying, I see all the people after it coming to the ring, they were all crying. Of course, you have to literally wrestle in that spot where you know the board is broken and the blood is. You have to look at it. Undertaker visibly is upset. Stone Cold is visibly upset. It's like,
did they have to? Once again, I don't know. I would have loved. That's what I'm saying. I would love a documentary to talk to the peers. Like, I want to know the deep stuff about it, to the point where it's kind of like when Eddie died. They said you don't have to work, but if you want to work, you can go out there and work.
But that could have been an outcome from the fact that they made them go work when this happened. That was 6 years later.
You're right.
You gotta understand, Vince McMahon is a dickhead. I'm sorry, it's nothing. It's no other way around it. Bull is a dickhead. All right. This man probably knew that Owen was dead when he called Martha the first time, and he didn't want to give her the news. I bet money, because that man more than likely had passed away before he left that building.
I say he died in the ring. That's what I say. Yeah.
So why wouldn't you, the CEO of this company, you took the time to call me, why wouldn't you tell me that? Why wouldn't I would not, if something happened to you when you worked outside the house.
Yeah.
If an accident happened and our old general manager called and was like, there's been an accident, and I said, what happened? Someone else is going to call you. I would be like, the fuck? Why can't you tell me? Weren't you there? Mm-hmm. I think that in a business that is so rampant with testosterone and just grit and everything else going on, I feel like sometimes the compassion gets lost, because especially back then, you're not really trying to show necessarily like the breakdown. Mm-hmm. And I could be wrong, but I will say, yeah, we're not in their shoes. We're not in Vince McMahon's shoes, because you at that point would have had to refund a bunch of people if you had canceled the show and everything else and blah blah blah. But I don't think, me as a person, just the kind of person I am, I don't think I could have said, let the show go on, and gave JR 10 seconds to compose himself and tell everybody that Owen Hart died, made all these wrestlers go out there and wrestle on the very spot where this wrestler that was their peer and their friend died. I just don't think I personally could have done that. That's just me personally. I don't know what it's like to own a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar corporation, so I don't know if I can't speak from that space. But I don't think that I could have said, let the show go on, and watch these wrestlers go out there and wrestle visibly upset.
That's a hard one.
So, if you're playing football, somebody dies in the middle of the field, and they just scrape them up and like take them to the bed. Are y'all gonna stop the game, or y'all gonna keep playing?
Like I said, I want to stop the game. Just like I would have stopped the Over the Edge review.
Yes, yeah.
That's to me. That's
what happened?
The Over the Edge review.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you say.
Yeah, I would have did that, but they didn't, and like I said, especially as an adult, I definitely would have stopped. I would have stopped it. I really would have stopped it, but it's the situation is as fucked up as the Benoit situation.